No, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm sure you've all had time to read through the speaker schedule. But Reverend Susan, I had a lovely quick conversation with her a while back, and she just, her energy came through, and I really am looking forward to her talk. And I think that's one of the things, we really get to kind of feel somebody rather than just hear about what they're doing. These classes, we get to get a feel for people, and I think that that's a really special thing. But she's an internationally acclaimed author, consultant, and workshop leader with a dynamic professional practice. She uses traditional dowsing tools as well as the power of heart and thought to detect and transform non-beneficial earth, environmental, psychic, and other energy patterns. She has led workshops and presented at conferences across North America, the UK, and Italy, Japan, and the Middle East, and was featured in the Resonance documentary. She studied with Canadian First Nations elders, and received initiation from the Dalai Lama. Susan is a past president and Dowser of the Year of the Canadian Society of Dowsers and is an ordained metaphysical minister. So you don't meet metaphysical ministers every day. So I'd love for you to maybe share what that is, and I'm looking forward to hearing you speak.
Well, I'm honored to be here. By law, I am required to say that my religion is metaphysics. Metaphysics is the study of the nature of reality. And I think we're all doing that. And I was fortunate to find a group through which to be ordained. So it's part of the life's work. I'm going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation prepared. And you will tell me if you can't see that, I think.
Looks good.
We're all good. Okay, so let me just turn off the floating controls. So I'm excited to be part of a water symposium to acknowledge water, and I would like to submit that everything, in fact, is conscious. So I am a professional dowser. That's somebody traditionally that finds a place to drill a well. I was gifted with the name Carrier of the Sacred Water, Water Woman, by my colleague White Eagle, who is a Canadian. I'm in Canada, by the way, in Eastern Time Zone, and we respect the Native tradition here very much. So I'm honored to carry the name Carrier of the Sacred Water, Water Woman. So I've studied in the northern British Columbia Wet'suwet'en tradition, and with His Holiness in the Celtic tradition, Kabbalistic tradition. And all of this just carries through into the metaphysics of things. So my journey, I want to tell you who I am before I start talking, so that you get a sense of my journey, and some of you may have had the same journey. I came in clairsentient, meaning that I could feel things around me, but I couldn't see them in my family and in my time. This was never talked about. So I was afraid of the dark until I was 45. It was very terrifying because I could feel the consciousness of many things. I could feel presence around me, which if we don't talk about it, it's scary. So part of my work is with children and for the parents and grandparents of young children, because a lot of the kids come in, they are also feeling these things, the consciousness of things. Also with at the end of life, you may have experienced this in your own family or with relatives. Your loved one may see their beloved at the end of the bed or in the corner of the room. And I suggest, rather than saying, oh, there's nobody there, oh, well, how is Uncle Bob? And treat everything, all these experiences, as if they are real. And that is how we learn things. But for me, it was a long journey. It set me on the way. I had the big corporate career, made lots of money until I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 29. My hands were claws for 23 years, didn't open or close. It was a disaster time for me, but it took me off the corporate path and put me back on the spiritual path, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. So I found dowsing, and really it is Energy. It's just working with energy. After about 5 years, I was drug-free and continued to be drug-free and pretty much symptom-free. So, you know, a rheumatologist would say I was in remission. But basically, through all this, I learned to talk to my body, to the elements on the planet, and to bring them into transformation. So I was interested in Veda's story about water turning into vinegar. This is something that dosers do, although we don't do it in a malicious way, hopefully, but we can remove, theoretically, but we can taste it too. You can change water into wine. You can remove non-beneficial aspects of water using dosing techniques. So I'm not going to teach you to dose today particularly, but I want to open up that door to say, you know what, this is all possible. Along my route, and I developed food allergies, my whole immune system shut down. It's like, okay, you're not going to be in this body until you figure out how to deal with it. But I recognize that the autoimmune disorders can be the self not recognizing the self. So what is the self? Who are we? What are we doing? We are the meat package, you know, or the water package. We're a meat and water package, but we are the energy that continues. And I experience the continuity of life through death. Through all of this, I've written a ton of books, which are on Amazon, in various markets, available through Prime or through my website, doser.ca. So what is dosing? So many of you have probably seen a pendulum, you probably have them. Yes, we find water, but ultimately dosing is applied consciousness. So my daughter is an engineer. Engineering is applied science. So we take consciousness and we apply it to something, and then we manifest, we detect, transform, manifest. So it's one of my first talks I gave was magic, miracles, and dosing. So in my world, I do talk about magic, I do talk about miracles, and that we each individually have the power to manifest these things. And as Veda said earlier, it's not waiting for somebody else to make these changes and to give us the power. We look into ourselves, we recognize our power, we remember our power, and we work from there. So it's applied consciousness. In my world, I use the word panpsychism. Yes, I'm ordained as a metaphysical minister, but in my view, everything is conscious. Conscious is universal. One of my, and I am going to use some science in here a little bit. One of the things that I think about and not worry about, but I'm aware of, is that when we look out with our fabulous telescopes out into the deepest space, our consciousness going out into space tags something out there, and that consciousness comes back as well. So it's time travel, and it's space-time travel, really. So we must be very careful with our thoughts that we send them with right action, if you will.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for just a sec. Somebody's drawn on the thing, and I don't know if they realize they've done it. Can whoever did that orange thing, can you take it off, or however you did it, if you know how?
As the host, can you limit that?
I don't actually, I don't even know what the thing is. I've never seen that before, but it's sort of on the screen now. Are you able to come out and start and just come out and come back to this, and hopefully that will get rid of it?
Well, we could try that.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, because I don't know how to fix that. I don't even know what that's called or where to fix it.
Well, when many people are co-hosts, each has the ability to start drawing.
They've got rid of it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see where I was, because that's a great shot back there. So what we do as dosers is detect and transform energy. This shot was taken in community at a dosing conference, and we're drumming. We think of dosers as using pendulums, but we're drumming the resonance of the drum. And one of the other participants managed to take a photograph, and I'm sure you guys have taken photographs of these too, but of the orb energies, which are invisible generally to most people, but we can photograph them. So this is just a form of energy that we can detect. With dosing, we can also communicate with all things and with all time. So we can go back in time, we can reset things, we can go into the future, we can look at future influence. We can look at past influence. So the whole thing is just detecting what's going on. We're in this moment, but in every moment there are influences from various places. So dowsing is the best way I have found, very simple modality to rigorously examine these things. Speaking of rigor, so here's a little science. There's brainwave frequencies you're probably familiar with, the beta, alpha, theta, and delta. These, when we have different thoughts or different states, we're in different states. Deep sleep, folks are down in delta or catatonic state. In dreaming sleep, people are in theta. In falling asleep, alpha. Normal waking up here in beta. And this is done, with science. Transcendental Zen meditation, you've got a lot of alpha and theta. But with dowsing, this is the mind training, brainwave training. We stay conscious in all brainwave frequencies. So one of my colleagues was just learning how to do a shamanic journey. And I said, oh, he's not a dowser at this point. Where did you go? I don't know. What did you do? I don't know. What did you experience? I don't know. So learning to travel between the realms is an excellent thing, but we need to keep our sovereign being, keep our conscious minds intact as we go through these things. So this is connecting superconscious, subconscious, and conscious minds. So it's nice to throw a little chart in there to say, yes, trained dowsers are able to control their brainwave frequencies. So the point is that we know we can detect frequencies, we know what beneficial frequencies look like or what we want, so we learn how to create the frequencies. So using that example, I love the example of the vinegar water. It's intention, of course. If one intends one's water to taste like vinegar, it can be made so. And if one intends to remove that taste, that can also be done. So it's all working with energy. I would say manipulate. We don't manipulate, we interact, we communicate with energy and reach agreement. And this reminds me also of Veda's story of the tree, of the individual who spent 10 years looking at the tree. There's such sensitivity then created, such communication. And I invite you, if you've never done this, go to a tree, whatever season you're in right now, put your hand gently on the tree and you will be able to communicate directly with it. In the spring, it rises up. In the winter, it falls back down into a lower consciousness. So everything is consciousness, but it's not human consciousness per se. So dowsing is the universal translator between water, earth, air, fire. It's a step down transformer. Google does this now, and we do this as dowsers. So just check the cartoon if you can see this on your screen. It says caution, buried telephone wire, and all the birds are standing on it. So in most places, when birds are resting, they'll stand on the wire. But these birds, the wire is buried, but they're still standing. So how do the birds know where the wire is? It's electromagnetic. So much as the birds are picking up electromagnetic signals, our human bodies, because water is so good at this, our human bodies are able to detect subtle electromagnetic energies. So some of the things we can look at, communicate with, integrate, if you will, water, of course, earth, the environmental things, Wi-Fi, of course, all these, well, we won't even go into Wi-Fi, but there's so many external environmental factors, and this brings us into the topic of epigenetics, which is the influence of the environment on gene expression. With dowsing, we can go into our cellular structure and see what's going on and modify that, detect, and then transform to create a more healthy outcome. I'm also professionally a ghostbuster. I don't call them ghosts. I refer to them as extra consciousness. So in my profession, I have often experienced consciousness of beings who have left their body. So sometimes it's my job to tell them, oh, did you know you've left your body? And they don't always know that. But dowsing gives you that ability also to work with animals. And then psychic cords is an expression of a strong attachment that people may put on you or that we may put on somebody else. So it's the subtle energies we can work with. So anything can be a dowsing tool. You're probably familiar with pendulums. You've probably seen L rods. I use a bobber, which is this thing. That's not so common, but it's very easy to use. But then we use body dowsing. I prefer personally to use tools, because when you're interacting with unknown energies, just using your body, maybe you tip forward at the store, is this a good vitamin supplement or not? Tip forward is yes, tip back is no. When you are introducing an unknown substance into your field, you may be bringing in the detrimental aspects of that. And we talk about psychic protection as well, coming back to Veda's lovely story, that she perceived something is going on. This person is doing something. That person had that strong intention. So as we sensitive people, and we are, as we sensitive people go through our days, it's really important to fill out your aura, fill out your psychic field, not in an aggressive way, but in a way that nothing can get in without your permission. So I talk a lot about being a sovereign being. And when we meet water or earth or air, we meet them. They meet us as sovereign beings. We are different realms. And it's like, how are you today in your realm? And I always ask, how can I be of service? So if I'm doing a ghost bust, I don't say, get out. I say, I see you there. How can I help? Or if I see water, or there's toxic water, or something that is not quite right, rather than rushing in and trying to fix it, thinking I know better, I see you there. Can I help you? And then we move on in a respectful dialogue. And I think, we're talking about spirit and God and all of this, and it's a cross-cultural imperative that we come in with a universal love, if you will, universal respect for all life forms, seen and unseen. The tools, I know when my mother first saw me doing this, she said, well, you're moving your hand. And in fact, the tools move the hand. The tools are simply amplifying something that the body already knows. We have piezoelectric aspects to our physical bodies, so that we are set up to detect electromagnetic vibrations, and everything. Ultimately, everything is just electromagnetic, basically. So my practice areas are, I've already mentioned, ghost busting and working with earth energies, water, and it's fun to do the water. I put this picture in particular, because out in my area, we have aquifers, we have all this stuff. This particular one came in exactly. So I'll go out there on the land with my, you can see my tools are in there. It's not a very flattering shot, but my L rods are in there. And I called the water at 76 feet, 8 gallons a minute. And that's what it came in at. And it's like, even I say, man, how did I do that? But it's through the conversation. It's respectful dialogue and telling the need. And I like this picture too. The driller he's just totally bored with this, but the real nuts and bolts of water and getting it into our taps and our bodies. We have big rigs, and there's a lot of dirt involved in getting at the water. So where does it come from? And basically, is there signs, springs? Not necessarily. And how do we get good water? How handy it would be if there was just a tap that says holy water. This was at Glastonbury, I think, in the UK. But I love that. You can just go up there and fill your jug with holy water, and away you go. But I'm a boots on the ground. I'm a spiritual, metaphysical minister, boots on the ground, getting dirty in the mud with the water. So it's important to know, well, where does water come from? And I'm sure you guys saw this in school. You learned it in some grade, but it's everything is integrated. There is no separate thing. The planet is all one thing, and it's breathing, if you want. But how do you find it? I mean, the normal, just using the example of drilling, if you get a driller up to your house, they'll say, where do you want the well? And they put the well in there. That's not the best way to do it necessarily. This chart gives you sound frequency on the bottom and electromagnetic spectrum on the side. And of all the things that are out there in our lovely dimensional soup, we can only see these tiny little bits of things. So our senses, God bless our senses, our 5 senses. The electromagnetic sense is the 6th sense. And that's the one that we develop to really explore the universe. And it's the point is to explore safely. into the multiverse. So this is quantum physics, the multiverse. It's non-intuitive. Even the, you know, maybe we have some physicists on the call, but it's a non-intuitive thing. The multiverse, what is that? There's many different aspects, many different places where things are happening, many different portals where that things come through. I have lots to say about that. In quantum physics, we talk about the quantum wave, and I'm not going to bore you with all that, but the short form on that, the takeaway, the quantum wave is the realm of possibilities. So as we sit here right now, anything is possible. Not everything is probable. Everything is possible. And it is our intention going out there that will collapse the wave. The wave function collapses, and that's what creates physical reality. So that's a fascinating way to think about it, that the more focused the intention, and that's the next slide, actually, let me just say that. Dowsing collapses the quantum wave. What you focus on with intention tends to collapse the wave. We talk about manifesting. We're actually collapsing the quantum wave on that. And when we do that, we can, whatever you want to do. So what is it? You know, for me, I spent most of my life not wanting to experience any other dimensional anything, because I could feel them around me. And I was like, you know, no, I can't hear you. I can't see you. So whichever way you want to go, you start exploring and you can create that. So the spirit of place, this is in the Celtic tradition and some others. The lovely thing with different religions, they're born of different cultures. We have different words that we describe. So I come from a more Celtic place, and we talk about the spirit of place. So if I am looking for water or finding water, or if I'm looking for earth, or whatever I'm doing, first I ground to where I am. In order to, so many things to say. The most important thing is to be in your body. So a lot of us spiritual types, we're in the other realms. We enjoy that very much. It's a lovely place to be. But the power to actually travel safely in the other realms comes from being fully in your body. Once you're in your body, you can more easily extend your body, extend your consciousness into other places. And then always, of course, have a way to come back. I had one of my teachers referring to shamanic journeys. And perhaps you folks are doing shamanic journeys, but the most important advice he ever gave me was come back the way you went out. As I'm talking, if you guys have questions, maybe throw them in the chat, and maybe Veda, at some point you can just shout them out to me if we're going, if I'm going too fast or whatever. But if there's questions, type them in, and we'll try to leave some space at the end to answer those. Anyway, connect. How do you connect to the spirit of place? That's the first question. All right. Before we get into that, what are the aspects of consciousness? So I use, as you know, it's good to have a concrete example, not just a theoretical example. So my concrete example is doing a water well, being asked to go out there. But this is the process I use for everything. So if I am going to find a water well, water is not just an isolation. My client is not just an isolation. There are many factors around. So I tend to, if I'm driving, for example, to see my client or to find the water, when the car is close enough that I sort of know, I think the neighborhood is over there, a mile or a couple of kilometers away, then I will start my program to communicate with the spirit of place. And the one I start with first is neighborhood. So if you go in too fast, you can kind of miss some things out here. So when you're doing a search, it's good to start not necessarily in the place where you think it is, but to start further back and then focus the intention, and then triangulate the intention as well. So I start big with the neighborhood. So aspects of consciousness, I'll tell you more about that in a second. The property is always earth, air, fire, or water. The house has consciousness. I had a friend I was doing some work with, and she said the light bulbs in her house kept blowing out, exploding. This is back in the days more of incandescent lighting. And it turned out we detected that this woman actually hated the house she lived in. The house responded by breaking the light bulbs. And you may have found this with your computers, know people with computers. If you swear at your computer or your car, it's likely that it won't work very well. If you are very sweet to your computer or your car and say, you're running out of gas, and you say, please, dear car, you are so smart. Let us get to the next gas station and do that. So, I mean, it sounds like we're the crazy people when we start saying this, but if everything has consciousness, and in my experience it does, then the car will respond to that. The computer will respond to that. I was doing a talk some years back. I had my little laptop ready to go. It was a live thing. And the computer technician who was running the show came up and touched the computer, and the whole thing just dropped. And I didn't realize I was mic'd when I was saying this, but then I said to the computer, oh, this is my friend Andrea. She's lovely and she's going to help us today. And the computer came back up. So it was a really clear demonstration that things have consciousness. So the house, you want to look at that. The ancestors, and what do I mean by that? We talk about, and Veda mentioned ancestors as well. Like there's so much commonality in everything that we do, that we carry the memories of our ancestor, particularly the cellular memory of our ancestors. And I'm particularly blown away as a woman, and I believe this is true, that as a baby girl, we are given all the eggs that we will ever have, which is astounding. So that this enormous matrilineal direct connection, cellular memory, going back as far as we can go, and also going into the future, we can connect into that. And communicate with the eggs too. If you've got fertility issues or know people that do, start really going in and speaking very nicely to all of that. Because when we have body problems, we tend to curse our body. When we're ill, you know, I used to have the symptoms of arthritis. People now say, my cancer, my arthritis, my whatever the disease is. When you use those words, you are taking that on. You're owning those things. So I prefer always to say the symptoms of arthritis, symptoms of whatever it is. And of course, follow your doctor's advice, but talk to your body. So I'm in the process of reverse aging, actually. So I'm stronger and healthier now than I was 35 years ago, just through doing the dosing. So ancestors are the bloodline, guardians of the land. In the UK, you might call these stewards. They're the, I was going to say the residual, but they're the, it's kind of the spirit of place that we talk about. It is the energy, the devas, you know, if the beings of light, that there are, whatever you call them, in whatever culture, there are energies. Call it even Gaia. There are energies that are aware of and respond to our communication. And then, you know, sometimes we need to apologize. But guardians, one thing with the guardians, well, I have so many little things to say. I was going to say, if you wanted to check, if you're trying to sell a house, for example, and the land and house considers you the guardian or steward, you have to release the guardianship. So it's a conscious role that we accept or release when we're working. And the same with water. Some of you are working closely with water. We would want to ask permission of water. Water, I see you there. Can I help you? Is there some service I can do for you? And as I'm sure you know, self-healing occurs in service to others. So we talk about territory as well. So sometimes it's overwhelming to think of all the things on the planet and the universe and the multiverse. It can be overwhelming to think, well, what can I do? This is all so huge. And if you dose or somehow know whatever your process is, it's like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be working with the water. How can I, one person, heal the water? But we can consider territory. What territory do you have? And what do I mean by territory? It's what are you responsible for? And then, you know, let's look at the Bodhisattva. which is the Buddhist tradition. Some of you may be bodhisattvas. If you're dosers, I invite you to dose. Am I a bodhisattva? Do I carry the bodhisattva vows? The bodhisattva vows may indicate that you are responsible for healing water or whatever it is, but you may fine tune that. Well, what is the territory? Is it just in my town? Is it just the water on my land? Is it in my country? Or what aspect are you responsible for? So truly being in service, aligning with yourself. The autoimmune disorders is the self, not recognizing the self. If you can determine who you are, what you're supposed to do. I talk about earth purpose and soul's purpose. If your soul's purpose involves water, dear, sweet, beautiful water, I see you there. How can I help you? And then begin that dialogue. And Veda's doing that in the communications that she's doing. So if we can ramp up that communication, all the better, right? And we can be enlightened in an instant is one of the teachings. Anyway, the guardians they're there all the time. When we're working, and I talk a lot about health because that was self-healing was my thing. Let's talk about the water in our bodies. And if you or someone you know is not well, you can ask not them, but their higher self, if they want to be healed. Like, what are they holding on to? What do they need to release? These are all good questions. And then higher selves of other animals and beings. I find our pets, our animal companions, are often very insightful. Sometimes a cat is just a cat. Sometimes a cat embodies a whole other consciousness, or a dog or a horse or whatever. Anyway, here's the kicker, right? All factors known and unknown. So this is stepping back always. Step back as far as you can. Detect the problem. Come forward, come forward, come forward. Be specific what is the problem. And then ask, communicate with the element, water, earth, your body. How can I help you? What needs to be done? So this is my language. When I was first taught, for example, to ghost bust, it involved a lot of noise and a lot of yelling at these poor, lost souls who, if they could have gone, they would have gone mostly. So there's a couple of things we try. There is no try. There is only do, as you know. But we try to embody the highest principles, whatever your spiritual practice is, stay in that as much as possible. But this is what I say. I work with guides. We can call that a spirit team. We can call it archangels. I don't call it a higher self. I call it these guides are an external consciousness. And for example, when I'm working with water, many of my dead human teachers are also my guides in some of these things. So it's not a revolving door. I've got a posse of guides, and then I've got a whole bunch of other beings that I bring in. So for me, I was in the boardroom for a long time. And to me, doing this work, I'm sitting there with a lot of invisible beings who are communicating, and I am one of them. And sometimes I embody different aspects, but so that they are comfortable. But I say with honor and respect and through my guides. So I don't go in directly to the energies, because it's, as we said earlier, sometimes if you go to the store and you hold up something, oh, is this good for me or not good for me? If it's a toxic energy, I was like, oh, and you've already put it in the body. So I do everything through the guides. And whatever your spiritual tradition is, do it that way. His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, be the religion you are, and then just be the best at that. I'm an explorer, of course, and like to find the commonalities and things. So the great philosophies, we don't even call them religion, the great philosophies have many things in common. So through my guides, and I ask for the cooperation of the spirit of place. So in the previous slide there, I had all those things, the neighborhood property. This is how I then speak to them. I ask for the cooperation of the spirit of the neighborhood, or the house, or the earth, or the air, or the fire. And then this is all done with dosing, with a little pendulum. And I either get a yes or a no. And I don't ask them to do anything. I just ask them to cooperate. So to me, these are like people you would meet, and you don't just barge in on people. For me, I don't barge in on them and say, yeah, show me the water. show me the treasure, show me the whatever. So it's like, oh, I see you there. Would you cooperate? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. If they say no, then we start another dialogue, like, why not? What do you need? What can I do for you?
Sorry, would you
Okay.
like, there's a couple of questions. Would you like me to throw them in at the end, or would you like me to mention them?
If you think they fit now, we can do it now, or maybe wait till the end,
Sounds good.
because I'm going to answer all the questions. Because I'm actually quite psychic. That's funny. You know, when we do these things, I'm also talking to the future, and sometimes I'll answer a future question. It hasn't been asked yet. So, but let me soldier on, and we'll leave, say, 5 or 10 minutes at the end. So energy, we were talking about that, the different states of water, the different states of energy. And some of you folks may have taken the orb pictures, and it's not dust on the camera. There's also energy streams, and these are orb carriers, if you will. This is just taken with a normal camera. It's fascinating. The exploration, the camera and water, the exploration with the camera and energy is fabulous too. It's all in what's the intention, respectfully interacting, hello, communication. But check this out, a plasma. You see down here a horse, and you see here at plasma form, there's a picture of a horse. So what Veda's doing with the water and the freezing, we are also achieving, this is a winter day, this is not a cloud, this is, and I've got a lot of pictures of ghosts and things, actually, that people send me, but I think that's a really beautiful example of plasma. And what I have found, the orbs, the orb carrier I showed you, I'll go back. Let me just, because I think this is cool. And you don't see these pictures very often. I call that the orb carrier, each one of those things. And these are invisible. You can't see them. You only see them on the camera. But you see these balls of light in there. And you also see at the end something that looks a lot like the Ohm symbol. So it may be that others back in the past were able to more easily visualize these things. But in my opinion, the orbs are contained in these streams. They plop out into that, and then that orb thing dissolves into plasma and manifests into shape. What we see here, I have another picture I didn't put in. We see here the horse outline, but then that fills in and looks to our eyes like real matter. So one of the things I do when I encounter unusual things, I'll ask, is this 100% human? Is that 100% horse? Because the shape-shifting energy of energy can appear as many things. And sometimes that can be trickster energy, there to fool you, or sometimes it is responsive. When we use the example of Uncle Bob at the end of the bed of the dying person, it's actually manifesting. But the vision of the person passing is already filtering into the other dimensions. Doesn't mean they're not there. In fact, they're there all the time. Mostly they're all there. And of course, we know water is a liquid solid gas, which is lovely. Okay, the dosing protocol, and it's so simple, it's so easy, and yet it's so complicated. The hardest part is getting yourself into the mind state. And I will, if folks want to send me an email, susan@dowser.ca, I'll send you a 2-page PDF of the protocol, which would give you all the many words. But it's something that you don't just read, but you embody. You're not talking to the energies, you're communicating. It's like, hello, how are you? What's going on? Anyway, first thing always, as I say, get back in your body, balance your physical body with water, food, whatever you need. We connect to the self, to nature, to the divine source, whatever you call it. I connect to my spirit team. I'm pretty careful on that. Forgiveness is huge. You probably are aware of Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, thank you, please forgive me, I love you. It's kind of tied up in there, but I forgive myself. A lot of us carry around the guilt of childhood, and we need to just resolve that. You know what? I forgive myself. I'm just human. I'm doing the best I can. I screwed up in the past. I'm screwing up now. I'll screw up in the future, but I'm trying. You know, you just got to try your best. I talk about non-beneficial energies. In order to really hook into the divine, you don't go in like a garbage can. So some people ask to remove negative energies. My language is non-beneficial energies. Negative, positive are electrical charges. If you ask to remove negative energy from your body, you are misaligning your polarity. So it's non-beneficial to humans or non-beneficial to my pet, whatever it is. So clear that stuff out. It's like emptying the bathtub of the dirty water. Maximize the beneficial energy field. Seeking permission. So this is a big deal, that we don't just blindly go around and dose people, but we do it interactively and with permission. Not blindsided anybody. Dosing's the easy part. Creating the ongoing energy matrix. This is the thing that persists. So if you have been dosing and you go, oh man, I tried it, it didn't work, we need to create an ongoing system that will maintain the intention, because it's very hard for our little brains to maintain intention for a long time. So we need to set up a program. These are all algorithms, basically. And then, of course, disconnect at the end, thanking and communicating appropriately. I'm roaring through here. We probably don't have time to practice, but you know what? I'll send you a sheet if you want to send me I'll send you a really basic sheet also on how to dose if you don't already know. But the basic thing, yes and no, you're probably familiar with that. But the two big things, disconnect. This is another motion of the pendulum. Disconnect non-beneficial energy from the water. Take the taste of the vinegar out of the water. Put the taste of what you like in the water. Put the vitamins you need in the water. So as you probably know, homeopathy is a subtle practice. You can, I invite you to try, you just have the intention, oh, I like to get the beneficial effects of whatever homeopathic remedy you use. Or better yet, I like to disconnect the symptom of inflammation that is creating language is so important. You don't want to say that it's creating my disease, but you can ask to disconnect the aspects of my cellular, or in this case, the water, disconnect the aspects of the water in my body that carry or transmit or amplify or template any non-beneficial aspect in my body. Disconnect those, and you can pee that stuff out. And then maximize is the other big one. Once you got rid of that stuff, then bring in dear, sweet, beautiful water. With your next glass of water, bring in everything that I need. And we haven't actually done anything except we changed the water. So I invite you to try that. And that's just what I'm saying right now. So you would ask, is this food healthy for me? Or is this water healthy for me? And I use a plus minus chart to measure. So it's not just yes, no, you can fine tune things very much. Show me the overall benefit of this water at this time. So you detect and then you transform, disconnect non-beneficial energies, the taste of vinegar, and then maximize the beneficial energies. And then on an ongoing basis, keep it going. So for those people who don't want to eat chocolate because they're afraid of whatever, it's going to make them sick, you can change the energy on the chocolate on an ongoing basis so that you can eat as much chocolate as you want. I often use chocolate because that triggers people. So that's my dosing protocol. I always begin with a First Nations protocol. So this is in my, I have permission to share this from my teachers. The prayer ties, we put these on around the house. So there's the physical energy manipulation with physical prayer ties, etc. But when I'm, say, doing a water well or any serious work, I don't have the physical prayer ties with me, but I will turn to the east and I'll turn to the west. And I put in the Tibetan sand painting in there. as well. I'll say a little bit about something there. So for me, and this is First Nations Canadian, and I was taught, and there's different aspects, but many cultures are similar. Start facing the sun. So I invite you, any spiritual practice you do, first plug into the consciousness of the planet. And this is a great way to do it. You face the east, and then the south, turn to the south where the resources are. And this is Northern Hemisphere kind of thing, because our south is, there's more green. So in the Southern Hemisphere, you might reverse that, and you may already have a tradition for that. The West is the completion. So I was out someplace, and a guy wanted me to site a pond where he could put trout. And so I begin my process by turning to the directions. And I also ask for the cooperation of the grandfathers of these directions. But when I got to the West, I couldn't get it. It was like, nope, nope, nope. And I said, I'm sorry, you will never have a trout pond on this property because it's not going to finish. So we saved a lot of time and money on that one. Anyway, north in my tradition here is the ethics, southeast Father Sky, southwest grandfathers, northwest Mother Earth, northeast grandmothers, and in the east continuity. So this is all plug into your body, plug into the planet, plug into the earth, air, fire, water. They are all integrated, and then ask how you can be of service. So for me, going in to do a water well, I will say to the water and the elements, now I've met this family. They have 2 children. They seem like very nice people, and the children need to drink the water, and their pets and the animals who need to drink the water. Please help me find where the water is. And then I go and do the dosing. And I have my grandfathers, all my dead teachers, I ask them to confirm that too. So depending on how my tools respond, I know I'm being influenced by these different conscious beings who persist. This is something very simple. With another First Nations thing, with the first sip of water in the morning, heal me if there's anything wrong and give me the wisdom to share. Heal me if there's anything wrong and give me the wisdom to share. So we're not saying there's anything wrong with us. And we're not asking selfishly. I asked for years when my hands were claws. I asked for years to heal my hands. And it was finally when I figured out, heal me so I can help other people. And then that cleared up. So there's a sip of water. I love that. It's so simple. Okay, this is a little sidebar, but talking about common culture. And I'm going to whip through this. I was in Egypt, in Edfu, one of these beautiful places, on a tour. And I asked the guy, what are these niches? Giant niches, obviously, in the wall. And he said, oh, they used to hang banners in there. I don't know how he knew this. I don't know if it's true, but he was an Egyptologist, and this is what he told me. And I said, oh, what color were the banners? And he said, oh, they're green, white, red, and black. And we've already seen those colors tonight. I said, oh, what do those colors mean? It was like east is sunrise, south is the Nile, the vulture, west is sunset, and north red, the spilled blood of the cobra. And you may know that the hieroglyph for village is that X. And what does that look like? It looks like absolutely the native and absolutely the Tibetan sand mandala. So this great seeding of culture has come out. I mean, did it originate in Egypt? I can't tell you that, but it is just widespread. So it's no wonder that wherever we are, we share a language. It's maybe not the same language, but we share concepts of the directions, of the respect for water, of nature, of integrating, of helping others. It's huge. And that shows up in many places. The circle, the cross circle, it's everywhere. So common philosophies, what are they all in most of our religions? The gods are in control, whatever that is. Some human is the link. Now, in my practice, I am the link. There's nobody else. There's me, and there's the universe. So this is, as Veda mentioned earlier, take responsibility, do it yourself. Don't look to somebody else. We can all wave our little flags and say, go that way, but you got to take those steps and do it. Rituals influence deities. These are ceremonies. And I have my medicine bag and I do my ceremony with the directions, but that's all just meant to focus our bodies and bring us into this present moment. Live by right action and prepare for the afterlife. Maintain Mat. There's the Egyptian word, but order of the universe. We are the order of the universe, and all we have to do to maintain it is just to be who we are authentically. And that is our right and our responsibility and our joy. So create the frequencies that you seek. And this work. Let me just show you this. That is below Niagara Falls. That's all the Great Lakes. Let me move on. Those are the Great Lakes of Canada flowing into like a 20-foot channel, and the riverbed is flat, but the waves, the water piles up 15 and 20 feet. It's just an amazing dynamic place to be. So as mentioned, I have all these books, and send me an email at dowser.ca. and I'll send you a little thing. Okay, let's have some questions.
Okay, let me go into the chat. Okay. Someone's saying, well, let's go back a little bit because there were a few. Someone's saying they have a million questions, but one of them is about reverse aging. I think you captured a number of people. It's like, oh, what's this? How do we do reverse aging? And the other question there, she said, is, do you know about stargates, guardian? The question is, guardians, do you know about stargates? And then someone said, my dead human teachers are my guides too. Sometimes I even forge which ones, forget which ones are living and which ones are dead. Someone's saying, remember not to blame, judge, or otherwise the sick person. It's their journey, and another cannot know everything. Someone's asking the question, how do you see the chemical substance addiction or addictions substance abuse?
Let's do that one first. That is, to me, the question, as I'm understanding it, is what do you do about addiction? To me, this is part of the soul being hidden. We talk about soul retrieval, and traditionally you go to a little cave, you do a thing, you go and you find the soul part external. What I think is that the soul part is hiding inside the body, and that's what's creating the addiction. So what you need to do is do not a soul retrieval, I don't call it that anymore, a soul repair. So this is why you got to be in your body to feel these things. And even if you're not dosing, put your hand over your solar plexus right now, maybe over your heart, and say to yourself, dear, sweet, beautiful soul, it's okay. I can look after you. I am home, and it's okay to be. It's okay to be. And then bring that into you. Like it's all inside. So addictions, you can work with that. And then also use the dosing protocol to disconnect the aspects of the human and their environment that are stimulating the desire to gamble, drink, eat, whatever. Yeah, once we're sovereign beings, we have complete choice. I choose not to. I choose not to eat that piece of cake. I want to. What was some of the other things there?
Reverse aging.
Oh, reverse aging, right. So because I was crippled at 29, my geriatric age, I was geriatric at 29 years old. I had been healthy and all the rest of it. And then out of the blue, because that was how God got my attention, because I was too busy making money. It was April 15th, 1982, very specific. Within a month, my hands cramped up. Then my whole body shut down, my immune system. So I've spent 41 years now in rehab. And so the reverse aging comes from getting back into the body, loving the body, following your doctor's advice, just going into your cellular memory. One of my books, the Get Healthy book, talks a lot about this. Now, to be honest, I'm getting my first pension check and I'm getting hearing aids. So I'm calling it now augmented reverse aging. I go to the gym. You got to do the things your mother told you. Go to the gym, drink water, eat good food, and then love yourself. The Ho'oponopono, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. We have to do that with ourselves to begin with. I forgive myself for being what I turned out, or whatever I did. I still think of things I did 60 years ago that I said, oh, that was a stupid thing. Yeah, but I forgive myself. So just be who you are. What else? We got 5 minutes.
Hang on, let me go in. Okay, someone question: how do we identify trickster, non-beneficial energy? How do we ensure we only work with the most beneficial energy?
That's an excellent question. That is the reason for the protocol that I've developed, which is, in 2010, a lot of my teachers died. And I thought, why are these brilliant people dying? And they mostly just went and started doing the dowsing or their spiritual practice kind of thing. So that's when I started developing the protocol. I'm going to get behind. I'm like in the submarine. I've got all my psychic armor around me. It's up periscope. So I do a protocol, whatever it is, before you begin. But one of the ways that I was taught, and I still use, like as we feel energy around us, and like sometimes you just know it's creepy, if it's good or if it's creepy. I will say to the being, do you accept divine holy love? And that's a yes or no question for me. So I found dowsing is so easy. Do you accept divine holy love? If the thing says no, then go away. But I say go home, actually. When I started doing ghost busting at first, another practitioner told me, well, you got all the ghosts off the property, but they're all standing around the fence line. So you got to actually send them someplace. But if they say no, you say, well, how can I help you? What do you need? If they say yes, so do you accept divine holy love? Yes. Then I become divine holy love. What does that mean? So we're up in our brains, you go into your heart, and then you just expand that heart energy. That's the transformation. That's the thing that changes the world. In your heart and just out. And then if the being is still there at the end of that, you say, did you like that? Yes. Okay. Well, then you're okay, probably. You could ask questions. Anyway, there's many ways. What else have we got there?
Okay. Someone's saying they've personally been dowsing for 30 years, and I'm confused as to why this form of divination is forbidden by God in the Bible. Any ideas you can share?
Well, yes, because God didn't write the Bible, right? It's not forbidden by God. Some guy wrote it down, and most of the there's only one place in the Bible that it refers to divination as not being appropriate. There are many other places in the Bible. And actually on my website, under articles, I have an article that says religious leaders endorse responsible dowsing. So I took it upon myself to find all these references. There's Moses with the stick, there's Aaron with the rod, there's the Pope, one of the popes, I forget which. He endorsed it too. So it's, I do have a Bible version of the protocol that is suitable for Christians. I have a Muslim too, but I haven't kept that up to date so much. If you want the Bible protocol, send me that. But, Jesus changed water. I mean, Jesus was doing all this stuff, right? So why shouldn't we?
I just love you. And I'm also so grateful for you and all the support you've given me along my journey from the moment we met to my trying to like organize, well, not trying, but organizing this whole thing.
Right.
And, I'm just going to come out of this and remove the spotlight there. But, I think you bring such a wonderful new aspect to this conversation about water.
Thank you.
And I was quite fascinated with the horse plasma picture as well, because
Right.
I love all that. So lots of people saying thank you, they love you, you're amazing.